BFOD squad. Welcome back, everybody. Podcast known as Barrel Full of Daryl. We are currently on episode 42. And I like to talk about music and movies and provide you with some other funky ass shit, which I hope you enjoy. Now, last time I asked you the question, what song is this lyric from? Guess I got what I deserved. Kept you waiting there too long, my love. Well, that's the song Baby Blue by Badfinger. If you listen to my playlist, you probably recognize that. So here's a new movie line for you. Merry Christmas. Shitter was full. You name that movie? That's a softball of a question. We all know it's Christmas Vacation, right? A famous quote by the cousin. What's his name? Cousin Eddie. That's it. Cousin Eddie. Yeah. Great character. Great movie. Another good Christmas movie. So on today's music, there's this psychedelic rock band formed in Oklahoma City in 1983, known as the Flaming Lips. Founded by Wayne Coyne, lead singer, and Stephen Draws, lead guitarist. And they were the only two consistent band members throughout their long career. Now, I'm a huge fan of this band. Now, they dress like druggy hippie freaks, but their music makes up for that, by far. Their songs are typically loud, hard rock, and likely best heard under the influence of your go-to drug. Now, this is best demonstrated by listening to their songs or by the album titles, such as Hit to Death in the Future Head, Clouds Taste Metallic, Yoshimi Battles the Pink Robots, and Transmissions from the Satellite Heart. Now, that album, Transmissions from the Satellite Heart, was their second album released on a major label in 1993, and it contains the hit single, She Don't Use Jelly, which brought them into the mainstream. Now, this is a whimsical song. Here's some of the lyrics. I know a girl who thinks of ghost. She'll make you breakfast, she'll make you toast. But she don't use butter, she don't use cheese. She don't use jelly or any of these. She uses Vaseline. Yeah, weird, right? But it's a very catchy song and very popular at that time. Now, I recall seeing the video for this song on the MTV, very low budget production, with the band members either sitting in their home studio or walking around outside in the dark being recorded. And Wayne Coyne, the lead singer, is very, very orange hair in this video. And I'm sure my daughter Megan remembers it as well. So all of their albums are really unique and trippy. My son Jake and I did a lot of listening to them, mostly in my car, and we really enjoyed all of their music. In my opinion, their best three albums are Transmissions from the Satellite Heart, Clouds Taste Metallic, and Yoshimi Battles the Pink Robots. In 2009, they released a cover album for Dark Side of the Moon. And this is the title. It's very long. The Flaming Lips and Star Death and White Dwarfs and Henry Rollins and Peaches doing Dark Side of the Moon. End of title. Yeah, it's a mouthful. Now they were faithful to the album structure, but they really rolled out the psychedelia carpet here. In 2014, they released another cover of the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band album featuring Henry Rollins. Again, they were faithful to the album structure, and again, they really rolled out the psychedelia here. Fun albums, trippy, pretty much true to the originals, but very psychedelic, fun to listen to. One of their albums, titled Zerika, is a 4 CD album, and all 4 CDs contain the same songs. Now, the intent is to play all 4 CDs simultaneously using 4 separate CD players. Sad to say, I did not buy this album, mostly because I didn't have, and I still don't have, 4 CD players. I also didn't have 3 friends who would be willing to hit the play button on the other 3 CD players. Now, as I said, each of these 4 discs contain the same songs, but I wonder if they can be played simultaneously using electronic music. I guess I'd have to burn them to CDs, but reference my excuses above. Now, I cannot imagine the amount of LSD these guys must have consumed over the years. But it sure led to some great music, and I appreciate their sacrifices. They released a total of 17 studio albums and have been nominated for 6 Grammys, winning 3. In 2002, Q Magazine released a list of 50 best rock bands to see before you die, and they made that list. Now, the band name, Flaming Lips, comes from an instance in their high school about a classmate that got genital herpes following cunnilingus from a partner with cold sores. Ouch. So check out the playlist, and remember, songs, especially these, are best heard using headphones, unless you're driving. And now a word from our sponsor. I'll be right back. My name is Jonathan Mordecai Turnipseed, but you can call me Sir. I'm the police chief here in Scratch Ankle, Alabama, and I got some upsetting news. 2 nights ago, someone used an accelerant and set fire to Willie Ray Parlay's library. Now, the house also caught a fire, burned down to the ground with the entire family inside. Those poor souls, may they rest in peace, especially Willie Ray. Now, his bucket didn't reach the bottom of the well, but he was an innocent kid and never hurt anybody. So I'm here to ask if any of you BFOD squad listeners know anything about this felonious and deadly act. If so, please give me a call at my office. Also, if you're the perpetrator, then come on and turn yourself in. You'll likely get a life sentence, but it'll be a life free of guilt. Now, thank you for your attention to this matter. And we're back. Movie time. Let's continue in the Christmas theme. Talk about Bad Santa. Oh my God, I laughed just saying the title. It was released in 2003, a comedy crime film starring Billy Bob Thornton as Willie, the Bad Santa, Tony Cox as his dwarf elf, Lauren Graham as the bartender / Santa's girlfriend, John Ritter as the store manager, and Bernie Mac as the store's security manager. Unfortunately, John Ritter, and Bernie Mac are no longer with us. Now, this is the second movie starring Billy Bob and John Ritter together. A Sling Blade was the first. John Ritter, he died 2 months before the release of this movie, Bad Santa, and it is dedicated to him. Also, the Coen brothers were the executive producers. Kind of makes sense. Now, the role as Bad Santa was perfect for Billy Bob. He plays a sex-addicted alcoholic with a very profane mouth, no patience, especially for kids, and he is rarely seen sober in the film. So every year at Christmas time, Santa and his elf get hired on at a big mall shopping store, which they case out and rob on Christmas Eve after the store closes. Now, the elf is the boss who handles all the logistics of the robberies. Due to his constant inebriation, Santa is unreliable, but the elf keeps him around because of his safe-cracking abilities. So the setting for the movie is a mall store in Phoenix, Arizona. The store manager, again John Ritter, is very prudish, and he's much disturbed by the behaviors of Santa and the elf. But he's told he can't fire them due to the elf being a dwarf. Now, the security manager, played by Bernie Mac, does some research on these guys, and he finds out what they are really up to, robbing the store. So he threatens to turn them in unless they give him half of the loot. Well, the elf isn't very keen on this idea, and he and his girlfriend, late at night after the store closed, they fake a roadside breakdown. They flag him down for a jump start. And after the jump start, he's standing between the two cars, and they kill him by crushing him. Now, there's also a kid in this movie. His name is Thurman Merman, played by Brett Kelly. He's short, pudgy, very curly blonde hair. Just a real nerd with snot always running out of his nose. And as a result, he gets picked on a lot by the local thug teenagers. Poor kid, his father is in prison. His mother is dead, and he lives in a very large house with his grandmother, Granny, played by Cloris Leachman. Now, the kid thinks Billy Bob is the real Santa and pesters him throughout the movie. Now, after his hotel room gets tossed, Bad Santa ends up moving in with the kid, although the kid is quite the nuisance and won't stop asking him questions. Due to the kid's situation with no folks at home, he hasn't gotten a Christmas gift in years. And he tells Santa that all he wants is a stuffed pink elephant. Well, Bad Santa, he reaches a low point, and he goes into the garage to commit suicide by the old running car and water hose method. The kid walks into the garage and interrupts him. Santa hands the kid an envelope and tells him to give it to the cops after he is dead. But Santa notices the kid has a black eye, and he goes a little bit berserk. So he shuts off the car, and he goes and finds the teenagers and just beats the shit out of the head teenager. Now, this act, it gave Santa a little bit of hope for a new life. And he says to the elf that he has turned a corner. Now, that night during the heist, Santa goes into the store and he grabs a stuffed pink elephant for the kid. But once the safe has been opened and all of the loot collected, the elf turns a gun on Santa and takes aim to shoot him. All of a sudden, in the store, they are surrounded by cops with guns, and a shootout occurs. Well, Santa runs for it. He makes it to his car, and he takes off. But not too far behind him, there's about 6 cop cars giving pursuit. You see, the kid had given the cops this envelope, which basically described the heist and who was involved. So Santa makes it to the kid's house, and all the cars pull up behind him, and he's running up the walkway to give the kid his elephant. Now, the cops shoot him, and he doesn't quite make it to the door. The neighborhood kids see Santa getting shot, and they all start screaming and crying. What a sight. Well, it ends up that Santa lives, and while recuperating at the hospital, he writes a letter to the kid, thanking him for giving the cops the envelope, which again detailed the heist. Now, since Santa had written the note and given the information to the cops, they release him with no charges. So, fairy tale ending, Santa ends up going back to the house to live with the kid and Granny. Now, most of the scenes in this film show you just how despicable Santa really is. One scene may be my favorite. He's eating a salad in the mall food court. He's eating it in a very sloppy manner. He's got salad and shit hanging out of his mouth. And a woman walks up with her kid and says, "Look, Timmy, it's Santa. Do you want to tell him what you want for Christmas?" Well, Santa erupts and screams, "Can't you tell I'm on my fucking lunch break?" All the while spitting salad on him. Yeah, the lady says, "Are you insane?" And also throughout the movie, when Santa is greeting the kids, he very roughly asks them, "What do you want?" When they answer, he says, "Okay," and tells them to get out of here. Another scene, Santa shows up, very drunk, walks up past the line of kids, falls down into the nativity scene, and he starts beating the shit out of every piece of the nativity scene, basically tearing it up. Also, there are a few scenes where he pisses his pants. Yeah. So, if you have an allergy to the F word and other blue language, this is likely not a film for you. But if you don't mind it, please watch and enjoy. It's streaming on Hulu, by the way, and it can be rented on Prime for the price of the proverbial hot dog. Okay, word of the week. Triptych. Eriptych. Triptych. It's a work of art on panels that are divided into 3 sections and hinged together, typically used as an altarpiece. Now, Way back in my engineering days, I often took extended business trips to northern Germany, Hamburg, and it was very awesome to visit the old churches. They're so magnificent. They're like 400 or 500 years old, and they contain many of these triptychs, and they are astounding. Now, in these churches, they also buried people under the floor. There were grave markers where people were entombed right there under the church floors. You stand there and between your feet, read who's lying there beneath you. Pretty cool. I think I got a picture of that somewhere. Joke of the week. My boss told me to have a good day, so I went home. All right, I know. Here's another one. A major new study recently found that humans eat more bananas than monkeys. Well, I believe that's true because, to my knowledge, I've never eaten a monkey. Question of the week from last week. You and I are driving cars facing toward each other, and we are 25 miles or kilometers apart. We're both driving steady at 25 miles per hour or 25 kph towards each other. How long before we hit head on? Here's my approach. The relative velocity of our cars heading toward each other is 50 miles an hour. You can picture this by imagining my car is sitting still while Dustin's car is doing 50. So the 25-mile distance would be covered in half an hour, 30 minutes. All right? You guys okay with that? If you came up with something different, let me know. New question of the week. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? I kid you not, that's the real question of the week. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? A thought of the week. Let's say you have this very large boat made of wood. Well, it doesn't need to be very large. It's a boat made of wood. Think of the ark, the biblical ark. Now, if you completely disassemble it and rebuild it, is it the same boat? What if you replace parts individually due to decay? When all the parts are eventually replaced, is it still the same boat? Likewise, if you are beamed up by Scotty of Star Trek fame, you're basically torn apart on an atomic level and rebuilt. Are you the same person? Now, don't forget about the BFOD playlists that are out there. It's getting longer by the week. Some damn good curated music on there, by the way. I hope you're listening and I hope you're enjoying it. Now, feel free to contact me by clicking on the send me a text button in the episodes, or you can email me directly at bfodpodcast@gmail.com. Also, don't forget there's an option to support this show. If you're digging it, you can contribute a little bit of money each month to me. Not a lot of money, just a little bit. And I really appreciate you listening. We have reached the end of this episode, and I hope that you were entertained. Talk to you next time.